Do people say what they mean, or do they have perhaps another agenda? Parshat Hayasara offers us a beautiful explanation that when people are saying things, and perhaps when they're hinting at things, they're really meaning something else. So we're going to take a few examples after we appreciate the insights of um, our book, Growth Through Torah, by Rabbi Zelig Pliskin. You know, when Ephron uh, gave land to Abraham in order to bury Sarah, his wife, we know that Ephron was a very money-hungry person. And he offered Abraham land in order to bury his wife. And he said, you know what, just take the land, don't even worry about it. But you know what, if I was to sell it to you, to anybody else, it would be about this much money. And he said it like that. Now, a naive person would probably say, or a person who doesn't really want to pay, and who wants to pay, they don't have to. That's understandable, very understandable. Abraham understood him differently. A naive person would say, you know what, he didn't ask me to really pay him. He said he'll give it to me for free. Hey, I'll take it. Abraham looked at it very differently and with a lot more sensitivity. He understood that Ephron was money hungry. He wanted the money. So what did he do? He paid Ephron anyway. He paid Ephron and he was happy to do it. So when we have a debt, we shouldn't leave it off. Or we should really read between the lines. What do people mean? For example, when someone says the following statement, you know what, I don't really need help, don't worry about it, if anything I'll stay up at night to do it, right? If they're up to a task, what do they really mean? I need help. I would appreciate help. Perhaps this is what they mean. Or when someone says, I flew into the kitchen and started cooking for my family, what do they really mean? Perhaps maybe they want a word of encouragement. Maybe they want a compliment that, wow, you are a fantastic mom. You do so much for your family. And you know, you came from work and you started cooking right away and you flew into the kitchen because you're excited to serve your family, even though you were exhausted. Perhaps you need a word of encouragement. We have to read between the lines what people speak. Or I can't believe I failed that test. Perhaps the person means they stayed up all night to really learn, and they need encouragement. They need someone to believe in them, someone not to give up on them, because perhaps this is important for them, this test that they took, that they studied up all night for and failed. So we have to read between the lines of what people say and be sensitive to them. This brings about a very important idea that I wanted to share with you, my own insight. I believe personally that relationship is more important than result. Now, Abraham wanted to preserve his good relationship with Ephron. Yeah, he could have not paid him, but that would have skewed their relationship. And maybe Ephron one day would have said, look what I did for you, and would have made him feel bad about it. Yet, oftentimes we forget in our lives, just because we're busy, not because we're bad people, but we're busy, we're not thinking, we're stressed, we're overwhelmed, that result is more important than relationship. What do I mean by this? You're sending your kids off to school or to camp, and you're rushing, and the result is for them to get to school on time. Yet what happens during that process? We're stressed, we rush them off, we tell them to hurry up, we order them around, we may make them feel bad about being too slow. We forget that they're only children. The result is they're in school on time, yet they feel so down. The relationship between you and this child is not as strong, is marred, is skewed, is torn. And maybe it seems something so little, but it isn't. My husband shared with me a thought that he said that his parents, Baruch Hashem, thank God, are very, very wonderful people, and they were always very patient. And he remembers that his father woke him up to go to school in a very happy way. And I asked my husband, do you ever remember being late to school? And he said, maybe I was and maybe I wasn't, but I do remember that my father sent me off to school in a happy way. And that's big. That, of course, made their relationship strong. And That's not one of the reasons why I married my husband, but for sure I have wonderful in-laws. Um, and so the relationship is important. The result, so what if he came to school a few times late? But sometimes we stress that this is more important. And yes, it is important to be on time. But let's not mar the relationship. Let's not destroy our relationships. I wanted to share another example where perhaps the woman is cooking for Shabbat or cooking, and she's sitting at the table exhausted to the core, and she made so much food, and she doesn't feel appreciated. The result is she wants that appreciation from her spouse, from her children, and that relationship at that point is not strong. Why? Because her expectation is to feel some sort of appreciation, to be appreciated, to feel so that the family can feel grateful. So she feels nasty at the table. She replies back, she's nasty. She's not in a great mood. For what? For the 25 salads that she made, for the 5 meals that she made. We want that result that, oh, I'm a great mom, and I'm a great cook, and I'm a great wife. But the relationship is what's important. That my smile on my face is important. My mood is important, even though there may be 5 salads and 1 good meal or 2 good meals. That's what's important. And sometimes we forget that. Another example is if you buy an expensive gift for someone for their birthdays. What do? Maybe we think about the result. That person is going to buy me an expensive gift because I'm buying them an expensive gift. A birthday present to preserve a relationship, to strengthen a relationship, should be giving that person what they'd like, what they need, what would make them feel happy. Not something that would make a statement that you want them to also return that favor, even though it's so important to remember this. It's so important to forget it. It's so easy. I'm sorry. It's so easy to forget it. So one story really made an impression on me. Rabbi Manis Friedman shared it, and he said the following. He said there was a very distinguished older rabbi, and he was approached by a woman in the street. And there's another rabbi that was next to him, a younger one, and the woman in the street asked the distinguished Rav, I forget his name. She said, you know what, my husband doesn't believe me. I told him we cannot heat up soup for Shabbat. We cannot heat up soup on Shabbat, our holy Shabbat, with a ladle directly on the stove. We cannot do that. And the rabbi looked at her and he said, where's your husband? She goes, he's right here. And the husband came. And so the distinguished rabbi said to him, okay, your question is, you cannot heat up soup on Shabbat, correct? And the husband nodded his head. With a ladle, correct? He nodded his head. The soup on the stove directly, and the husband nodded his head. And then the rabbi looked at him, the elderly rabbi looked at the husband and said, I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to find out tonight and look it up, and I'll get back to you. And with that, the couple left. Now, the younger Rav said to him, Rabbi, of course you're not allowed to heat up soup directly on Shabbat with a ladle. You cannot do that. But the rabbi said, and for me to say that in front of the husband, how she would look at her husband with more disrespect, that would destroy their relationship, that would hurt their relationship. So the elderly rabbi was not concerned about the result, the answer, which anybody can find out from anyone. He was concerned about the relationship between the husband and wife, that it won't be as strong. It won't be trustworthy towards one another. It won't be as respectful towards one another. And that's important. So that rabbi was sensitive to that. And I hope that with these thoughts that I shared with you will strengthen our mitzvah, our good intentions towards other people. May we merit to treat others as ourselves and strengthen the mitzvah of love thy fellow as you do yourself, God willing. And may we approach others with sensitivity, love, kindness, and a sensitive perception and valuing of their feelings. Leah Abramov, being and becoming.